Ms. Bracken, I think you're right that FDIC insurance limit ought to be higher for, at least for checking accounts that are used for operations by small business. Mr. Trotter, you tell us that we can rely on these anti-fraud provisions, but we're offering $50,000 buyout for every SEC employee that enforces those provisions. Then we're closing all the regional offices, including the one in Los Angeles, that enforces those provisions. We can't relax the rules in reliance on the basic anti-fraud provisions if we won't enforce the anti-fraud provisions. Crime in the suites will grow if we follow the rule of Doge and defund the police. Mr. Huizenga, you're right, the accredited investor definition is crazy. It's based on the idea, several ideas, each of which are stupid. One is that a couple with $300,000 is rich, $300,000 income. And second, that rich people should be the ones that are accredited. We should, as Ms. Bracken points out, look at the percentage of the assets that the person is investing in that investment, and perhaps in all private offerings combined. And I think, Mr. Huizenga, there are a number of bills that look at what knowledge the investor has, and we ought to look at the truly independent advisors available to the investor. Another definition that we have that makes no sense is that we say that you become a public company when you have 2,000 holders of record. Okay, 2,000 investors, that's a public company. But in counting to 2,000, we count all Merrill Lynch customers as one. I'm a Merrill Lynch customer. They got thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. I haven't met them. They're not part of my family. And yet, when we add, so we have this weird math where 2,000 can mean 200,000. One of our witnesses says that when you make an accredited investment, you have years and years of financial information, sometimes, but not necessarily. Look, I've been on the business side of this, helping companies raise capital. Back in last century, I realized every investor protection is experienced by the business people involved as a hassle and a barrier. But if we don't have investor protections, we won't have vibrant capital markets. And if capitalism worked best without investor protections, then Uzbekistan, with no investor protections, would be doing better than Wall Street. I want to thank Chairman Hill for including in the list of bills that we're dealing with today the Access to Small Business Investor Capital Act. I introduced this bill in the 116th, 117th, 118th, and now the 119th Congress. I believe the fourth time is the charm. I'm honored to be joined by Mr. Huizenga and Mr. Garbiano and Ms. Bynum in that effort. Mr. Trotter, why is it important that we have vibrant BDCs and that we not have this peculiar provision in calculating their expenses that keeps them out of the indexes?
Well, that's my area of focus is really on corporation finance and the part of the SEC that registers IPOs, and I don't really have much to say about that question. Okay. If I may, I would say on your enforcement question, the private securities litigation is very active.
I recognize that, but an awful lot of times the person you're suing is bankrupt. We really need, but you know, certainly by the time you get the private securities regulation. And Mr. Trotter, what do we do so that we have public and private capital markets at every stage? Is private capital part of that effort?
I would say absolutely yes. Private capital is certainly a part of that effort. I think Regulation D is an important part of that regulation environment. One other thing is on your issue of a major broker-dealer counting as one holder of record, that really only happens once a company has already gone public, and that method of counting usually doesn't come into play.
I would disagree with you, and look forward to talking to you about it.
Sure.